Hey everyone, in this video we are going to take the challenge to build the whole application using Coder's Bakery. So Coder's Bakery helps you build applications faster than usual. So it will help you to build the base code with all the necessary basic features which will help you save time instead of building the whole application by yourself. In this video we are going to take up a challenge to build an application where you are going to get the whole application code base, and we will see how much code coverage we can take care with Coder's Bakery. So now we are going to build an expense tracking application, so where the users can put the details of their expense and the application will take care of the dashboard analytics and everything. So now we'll talk about what will be covered in this application. So all the authentication layer, all the basic features like email or SMS notifications, or if we need payment gateway, that can be covered using Coder's Bakery. For our application, the expense tracker, we will need certain entities. The entities are the basic building blocks for your application. For our example, the expense tracker will first need users as an entity, because users will come and put the expense and users will be using the application. And then we will have expense, where we will track the expense of each of the user, and also we are going to have category. So these entities you have to think for your application before building any application in Coder's Bakery. So this is an example. So similar kind of entities you have to think beforehand. So we also have option to generate these entities using AI. So the Coder's Bakery supports a master AI which helps you generate these entities as well. So I will give you a tour of that as well. So let's click on that. Then we have this describe your app, right? So here you have to describe your app. So let's describe our expense app here. So we'll try to explain this as simple as expense tracking app, where user can have input for the details of the expense and user will see this, or you can just simply say expense tracking app. So it will give you suggestions for the entities which will be required for this application. So here you see a lot of entities or entities where you can use in this. So here you can see a lot of entities which is suggested by the Coder's Bakery. As you can see, by default all the entities are selected. You just have to unselect whatever you don't want. So first we want to keep this application simple just for understanding. So we'll just use the three of the entities here: user, expense and category. So this is how you can simply generate entities for your application, and once you say generate, it will generate the categories as well as the properties of each of the entity. But now I have to show you how you can manually also generate this. So that's why we'll go back to our dashboard. Here we'll see how you can create entities manually. So let's add some. So first thing is users, right? So users, let's add some users and properties. So here you have to keep in mind the Coder's Bakery supports the user entity as default one as well. You don't have to add much of a detail here. So basic details like email, name, all these will be already supported by the Coder's Bakery. You don't have to add those properties here. You can add the additional properties of the user here. So let's do that. So if I want, then I can say contact number. I'll add a contact number here. So label, I can put contact number and it will be a type string, and here I can save it. So see how easy it is to add a new entity. Let's add more entities over here. So first thing which we'll need is category, right? So category, let's add that category, and then let's add a property to a category. The first property which we are going to add in a category is name. So now let's see what attributes we can add in a property. First attribute which we have is input type. So input type basically means what kind of input you are going to show or take from the users while putting the details, right? So it can be a text, date, drop down, radio, checkbox, image, multi-select, ID and password. So ID is basically dependent on any other table. So we have type which can be string, number, boolean, string list and number list. So this name will be string only. So let's see more settings. So more settings, we have default value. You can put some default value for this, and then we have minimum and maximum values, and then we can make it required. You can simply click on this and you can make it required and not required. So here we have a selection for the dashboard. So if we want this attribute to be presented in the dashboard, we can do that. So I'll show you how it looks or what it does, but not for this, because we don't need any dashboard or analytics on this category, right? And then we have filterable. So filterable means that you can filter out on your data with respect to this name, but we don't need here. We don't need filtration on this. So we're just simply going to save it as it is. So once we have category, let's add our final entity which is expense, right? So now expense entity will have some property. So first property will be amount. So for amount we don't need to change anything. Let's add something more, and here we will have a category. So but we don't have to add label or something, we have to use id over here. So once id, and it will give you what connection you want to make. So we'll choose category. So we will have a category in our expense, and then in more settings let's add this category in the dashboard, because we want to see in what category we are making more expense. And we have not filterable, we can do filtration also on this, because we want to filter each list on the category basis, right? So let's save it. So once we have all the entities present over here, we just have to make sure that active are false by default. And what does the active means? So active means these entities will be included in your application. So let's say if you made some new entities but you don't want to include that in your application, so you can just simply put that as a false, but I will make it all true, and then this is done. This is how simply you can add all the entities, right? Either you can use the master AI or you can add manually as I showed. Now we want to generate the application, so let's move it to project here. So on the project tab you see multiple tabs to configure your application. So here the first tab will show you the customization of your application, which have some basic settings of your application. So you can directly upload the logo for your application here, and I have a customized logo. You can actually just get it from here, and then we can put some name over here. So let's give it expenso, so which is an expense tracker. And then you can select primary and secondary color of your theme, right? So I will just put a random color here, green, and secondary will be almost white, like, and we can keep it like that. And we'll need a port on which the application will run by default, right? So let's see, we can put it 5678, and then we have GitHub username. So this username you can put if you want to application to create a repository in your GitHub profile, right? So that I will explain in a minute. So first you have to verify whether this GitHub username is correct or not. So you can put your GitHub username here, and then we can export the applications. So here we have two different options to export our application. Either we can create a repo directly in our GitHub, or you can export it as so you can try the GitHub creating a GitHub repo by yourself, but just make sure you put the correct GitHub username here. So before exporting, let's check other tabs. What options do we have? So in this version tab you can see how many times have you exported your application. So on the right hand side you'll see that whether you have downloaded that or you have created a GitHub repo, and on click of this GitHub link you can simply click on that and go to the GitHub repo. And then other tab we'll see, which is tech stack. So what tech stack your application should be. So you can choose what front end, back end, middleware, and database you want to use. So for front end we have options for React.js and AngularJS, and similarly for the back end we have only Node.js for now. So for database also you can choose whether you want to use a SQL or a NoSQL database. For this I will choose MongoDB only and React.js. So here if you see some additional features which are given in the features tab, so you can add a chat room. So chat room is something you can use one-on-one chat between users or group chat between users. So this is inbuilt feature which is provided, so you can check it from here and see how you can use it in our application. But for our expense tracker we don't need any chat room, so we'll leave it for now. In some other video or in some other project I will demo you this in detail. And same goes for the payment gateway. We did not need any payment gateway for this application. We'll skip it for now. But in any other videos where we need payment gateway, I'll surely show you how you can integrate and get this feature in. And then we have some settings or configuration on the entity levels. So let's check one by one what are these, right? So first one is includes. So what does it mean? So if we need a real-time updation on all the users using the application, you can use the socket connection. We can remove that for this one, no issue. And then we have include entity as a backend endpoint. So definitely we need a backend endpoint for this. And we'll include this entity as an auth module. So auth module as in this entity will be used to get login or register in your application. So similarly, if you have multiple entities which can be used for the authentication in your application, you can choose in each of the entity. And then we have options to include this in DB model. So definitely we not need that. We need user to be added in the database, right? So that is selected by default. And then we have, if you want to protect the API from an unauthenticated access? Yes, definitely. So this will check the APIs for the authentication, and that is what we need. So we will keep it. But for some cases we do not need it. That's why this is configurable. So the next configuration is add entity as a separate component in a main module. So we are going to have two different modules, admin and the main. Main is the user, which which will be seen by the normal users. So we need to decide here whether we need this as a main module or not. We don't need this because no, as a normal user want to see the list of the users or the detail of the user, right? So we'll just skip it. And then this is add entity functionality in the main module. No. So whether a normal user can add a user or edit a user or not, so no, we don't need that. Now we have configuration to add the entity as a separate component in the admin module. Yes, we need that. We need users to be added in admin module. So then we have configuration, do we need as a separate route in the main module? No. And then similarly for admin module, yes, we need that. And then we have, do we need to protect the routes? Yes, definitely we will need to protect the routes, because we want users to log in before users can see these endpoints. So, and also, do we need analytics on the card of each admin page? So analytics, so we'll have some analytics card on each of the admin page that we want. Yes, we need that. And similarly, you can configure other two entities as well. I know this is little bit more for any beginner, but this is all the configuration. But if you want to keep it as defaults, you can keep that, no issue in that. I just wanted to explain you what are the configurations we have in our application. So now this is the time, let's export our application. So let's export it. So once you export it, you will get the zip of this file, and you can just simply unzip it, and then you can open it in any of your code editor. Let me do that, and I will show how the code base look like. So now I have opened the application in VS Code. You can use any of the editor you want. So in all the application, you will see you have two different folders for backend and frontend, right? So let's see. And you can go through all the folders and see the code base by yourself. The first thing which you have to keep in mind is to env file of the backend. This is where all the configuration your application will go inside, right? So here are some demo data which I have put, because I can't share all the things everywhere. So let's check this out. So where you have to update something, right? So let's check that. So if you're using any image in your application, you have to update the Cloudinary details. So you can make account on Cloudinary to store the images, and then you can update here if you are using an image. In for our application, we are not using any image. I will just skip that. So, and I will suggest you to beforehand update this before starting your application for the first time. And then we have admin email, admin password. These things you can update by yourself, and then keep it whatever you want. And you also have to keep in mind that once you start your application for the first time, remove this line to save yourself from being hacked. As on the export features, we have selected MongoDB. The DB selected as a MongoDB, and then we have details over here. So you just have to update the name of the DB here, so which is DB_DB, and then you can name it whatever you want. I will say that it will be Expenso. So Expenso will be my DB name, and similar you can put this over here. And here you can see you have other options which you have to update in case you are using that, right? So it's for Stripe, you can update the Stripe details, Razorpay for Razorpay, and Twilio also. If you are using SMS options, you have to update this Twilio detail. Also, if you're using an email feature, then you have to update this Gmail system details from your Google account. This I will explain in detail in other video, but for now just let's start the application with these basic details. So now let's open our terminal from here, and here first we will go in the backend app, in the backend folder, and I will say npm install, which will install the dependency. So let's add a new tab in this, and then we will go to front end. In the front end also we are going to install all the dependency. So as you can see here, both the dependencies are installed. Let's start the application. So for starting the application, you can simply say npm start, and so the application is started on this particular port. And backend also just check and start the backend, and you'll see that the backend is running and the front end is running. So this is how simply you can build up an application and start the application. Now let's check the output, right? So I will do one thing. I'll just copy this URL from here, and I will just paste that URL over here. So you'll see that your application is running on this. So this is the login page which will be shown further, and from the env file you just have to copy the username and password here for the admin, which will let you in the application. So once you log in, you'll see the dashboard over here. So here you can see our dashboard. You can see the user, category, expense. The first thing which I'll do is go in the Batman mode, which is dark mode. So let's do that. So let's go through all the features which we have in default here. So this is my user where I can add some users. So now this application I can simply put on production, directly on production. That is the beauty of the Codebase. So you can see that we have functionality to add users. So put the details over here and then submit it, and then all the users will get added in this, right? And then similarly we have categories and expense. So let's add some category in this. So if once you open that, you'll see that you have either option to manually add a user category. So let's add this. So first category will be EMI. So EMI, yeah, you can see that it is added here. And then we have other option to add data is to bulkily upload that. So once I click on the bulk upload, I will see that option of uploading a CSV or Excel file is given. So I will try to upload a CSV file here, and you'll see that multiple categories are added here. Right. So now we have some other features which we can see. So if you want to hide some of the columns, you can simply click on that and that will be hidden. And we'll move to expense, and here we will try to add some expense. So expense is 1000 rupees, and then in 1000 rupees I say if I've used it for fun, click it on it, and then amount is I clicked on the add and the amount is getting added in the list. So this is how easy it is to use this. Let's add some more amounts. So 2000, and that will also be an EMI. And then if I refresh this, so once I refresh, I will get the dashboard over here. As you remember, we have added category as to be added in the dashboard. So this is how our dashboard will appear here. So let's get back to the features table and see what else we have added. In the expense, we have added analytics card as well. So analytics card, as in like these are the analytics card on the top of the table. So here what numbers of total expense have been added for multiple users, and similarly for the how many expense are active, which you can see inactive and deleted. So these things you can simply change in the code base. You will just get the other analytics instead of these one. And then we have dashboard over here, in which you can see we have two different entities, and it is showing 50% of the entities. Let's add another expense and we'll see how it works. 1000 rupees in an EMI, right? So once I submit this, you can see the dashboard is updated to 2:1. And this is how you can add different categories. And if you are going to check the code, it is very simple to add any of the column into the dashboard. So that is up to you how you just go through the code and get the details and updation from there. And also you see these are the filters which are provided in the table. If I want to filter the data with respect to amount, I will just simply select that, and then simply you can filter out the application. And similarly for the categories also fun. Okay, so both the filter will be and EMI. You'll see that these are getting updated. So now this is the admin side of the application. Similar, we are going to get the user side. So if you click on this user, you see the user interface for the application. So this is the list of expenses will show to the user. So if any user that signed up to the application will log in, it will be redirected to this, and from here he can add the amount or the expense to its user, right? And all the expenses will be shown in the admin panel, but the user will always be seeing their own amount. So you can also do some filtering, and also he can change the view from grid to list, so that you can play with. Coming back to the admin panels, so you can have this dashboard, analytics card, and details on the user side as well. And this is how you can simply build a whole end-to-end application with the basic features within minutes. If I log out, so you can see that this application can simply be deployed to production and will be working 100%. The users can use registration form to register to your application, and then they will be able to log in as a user. So users can be registered from this form, and they have to verify their email address, and then they will be able to log in and get to the user page. So this is These all features will be inbuilt in your application. So if you want to build an end-to-end application with the front-end back-end database, then you can simply use the Coders Bakery and get the fully functioning code on your local. Or as you can see that you can also create a repo in the GitHub. So now I will make more videos building other applications similar to expense tracker, and then we will see how you can use other features as well. So you can leave comment what other application you want to build using the Coders Bakery, or you can simply try it by yourself. So you can use Coders Bakery to build an end-to-end application of your dream. Comment down what other applications should I build for the next tutorial so that you get the better idea of the Coders Bakery. I would suggest you to sign up on the Coders Bakery and play around the Coders Bakery building your own applications. So let's create new applications and change the world. See you in the next video.